Yeah. So, okay, sorry. Okay, great. So a very warm welcome to everybody to this Indonesia cybersecurity webinar. Thank you for taking out your very precious time to join us today. We sincerely appreciate you taking out your time. Just for some context, this Indonesia cybersecurity webinar is in tandem with the project Cyber Export or Cyber Connect that many of you are familiar with. It's in partnership with the Cybersecurity Agency of Singapore, and we would like to thank CSA for their unwavering support to SGTech for this project. Part of this Cyber Connect project, many of you will be familiar that there was a cyber catalog that has been developed. And the cyber catalog was sorry, can I trouble everyone to maybe mute themselves so that there's no interference? Thank you. So some of you will be familiar, or many of you will be familiar, that the cyber catalog was developed to allow companies to list themselves online for global exposure, right? And we are actively marketing the cyber catalog to foreign markets. We have reached out to embassies, high commissions, trade commissions to take the cyber catalog and market it to global markets so that foreign companies can engage our Singapore cybersecurity companies for business opportunities. So for the many of you here, you are already listed on the cyber catalog. If you are not, I'll be sharing more information later on, and you can, be part of the cyber catalog as well, right? So I'm just going to share my screen. Yeah, sorry, just a bit of a glitch there. Okay, just a show of thumbs up. Are you all able to see my screen? Okay, great. Vinay, I see you have a hand raised. You have a question?
No, I was just saying that I can see the screen. Sorry
okay,
about that.
perfect, no problem. Thanks a lot, Vinay. So before we start, so we will kick off with the keynote address for today's program. So we'll kick off with a keynote address by Mrs. Sharon Teo, CEO of Inspire Tech. She's also the honorary secretary of our SGTech Council. So she'll be sharing on the trumps and the trials, lessons learned from expanding into Indonesia. Followed by, we will have a presentation by Mr. Irza Fauzan, CEO of AIPB Industry Platform, priorities and challenges of local enterprises, opportunities for Singapore cybersecurity companies. Just a fun fact, Irza's company, AIPB or Industry Platform, they are actually our in-market consultants for the upcoming Indonesia cybersecurity seminar. So as part of the Cyber Connect project or Cyber Export, many of you would have been involved, or some of you may have been involved in our virtual e-business mission to Australia, right? And we had actually supported 7 companies to export their cyber solutions to Australia, right? So the one to Indonesia during the week of 23rd, 26th of October, it'll be a physical business mission, 5 days in Indonesia, and AIPB is supporting us in the in-market consultancy for that. So we are grateful for Sharon and Irza for joining us today, for to share their thoughts, their perspectives about expanding into Indonesia. We will have panel discussions. We have two other speakers who have very kindly joined us today, Roy and Eris, who will be part of the panel discussion. And this session will be moderated by Ken, Mr. Ken So, who is the CEO of Athena Dynamics, and he's also the chair of SGTech's cybersecurity chapter, right? We were followed by a Q&A and then closing remarks, right? So just some house rules before we start. I'd like to request everybody to make sure that your mics are muted so that there's no interference, and keep your questions at the end of the presentation, and keep your questions succinct. as much as possible, so that we can take in as many questions as possible. And also, let's be a bit mindful to ensure that we keep the questions and the narrative surrounding cybersecurity, business expansion, and expanding businesses to Indonesia or even globally for that matter. Let's not try to deviate from the parameters of this discussion, so that we can stay aligned, and everybody can enjoy the session and take away key outcomes from this session as well, right? I received a message from Ken that we should take a group picture before we start, and I think that's a very good idea, because if not, many of us will drop off before some of us may have other commitments and may drop off. So I think it's good for us to all take a group picture. Can I trouble everybody to maybe switch on your cam, if it's okay for a quick group picture?
You need to do one in the beginning, one in the end to see who left.
I know, right, Eris? Okay, just
Before
give it another 10 seconds. If you can switch on your video, it'd be great. 5, 4, 3,
Nice.
2. Yeah. So if you can just switch on your video, it'd be great. Yeah. Okay, we have quite a few people to join us. So just bear with me. I'll be taking a few pictures. Yeah. Okay, everybody just put up your best smile. Right. 1, 2, 3. Okay, sorry, I'm just going to there are quite a few of us, so just bear with me. The second group, just hold your smile there.
A lot of new cameras are turned on.
Okay, 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Sorry, okay, just one more picture, yeah. This is for the third group. We have quite a number of participants today, so that's a good thing. Okay, for the third group, if you're ready. All smiles, 1, 2, 3. Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for holding your best smile there. We sincerely appreciate that. Okay. Let me just hit that. Okay, great. Perfect. Thank you for switching on the video cams. I know. Without further ado, maybe we can get maybe just allow me to introduce Mrs. Sharon Teo before she can kickstart her session. Yes. Yeah, so Mrs. Sharon Teo is the Chief Executive Officer for Inspire Tech Private Limited. She also the Honorary Secretary for SG Tech Council. Mrs. Sharon Teo co-founded Inspire Tech in 2000 after starting out from the financial industry. Passionate about IT and driven to disrupt status quos, Ms. Teo goes from strength to strength to build enterprise solutions, cultivate a dynamic culture, and develop sustainable relationships with partners and customers. She has led Inspire Tech from a humble startup to an international organization. Mrs. Teo is appointed as the CEO from January 2018 and plays a critical role in the strategic direction, business development, and operations for the company. Can we please invite Mrs. Sharon Teo for her presentation, please? Sharon, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Pa. Hi, everyone. I see a lot of familiar faces. Dutch, Mike, Philip, and a few others as well. Thank you for inviting me for this session. Maybe I just do a quick show of my slides, then get going. Okay. Second. Okay, are you able to see the full screen? Just to confirm.
Sharon. Yes,
Okay.
Sharon, we can see it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, hi everyone. I think Pav did a very quick introduction about myself. So, I'm the CEO of Inspire Tech. Maybe a quick introduction about the company, who we are and what we do, so that give you a bit of context. on the expansion plan that I'm going to cover a little bit later. So we're founded in the year 2000, and basically our company is basically a product company, specializing mainly in two main fields, the communications business as well as the governance, data management, and cybersecurity business. So under communications, we have two products, the Easy SMS, ComSwift, as well as for the cybersecurity data governance section, we do have EasyShare and Giga Central. So we have team members spanning across various countries like Indonesia, India, Middle East, Russia, US as well. And we've been building our channel partner networks across the various countries where we have presence. Of course, there are some places we do have more as our team members are sitting out there, not so much of a business expansion, but I think clearly for our business, we have identified the ASEAN region, India, as well as Middle East as our core market that we want to focus on. So I think working with team members from very diverse cultures has been very difficult for my company. But as we mature, we also see that while we actually build a team across the world, it actually allows us to deep dive a little bit more into different work cultures so that when we are ready for a lot of expansion plans, it actually helps us quite a fair bit. And I'm going to cover a little bit later. So as a software product principle, our current approach is really to set selective offices and then in certain regions and really drive our business through channel partners, namely the distributors and resellers. But besides that, maybe what I can do is give a brief about what this product is about, and this is really the core product that we are actually driving across globally for expansion. So EasyShare, an enterprise file security platform, enables organizations to secure, manage, and govern files effortlessly across multiple data repositories for everyday file exchanges. So some of the use cases that are very common for our clients include secure file sharing, team collaboration, and endpoint sync and backup. So in this product, we target mostly the highly regulated industries like the government, healthcare, BFSI, and also highly sensitive content organizations like research firms and high learning institutions. So when we are introducing our product, we try to align with the NIST framework. Like, for example, under the segment of protection, we cover areas like data security, access control, information protection procedure, and so on. We also cover a fair bit on recovery, and we also envision a product to cover areas like detection, whereby if, let's say, on the product on its own, we don't have certain area to fulfill it 100% for our customers, we can actually work alongside with certain tech partners in the ecosystem. So part of our strategy is actually to work with a very diverse international group of partners for our product platform, whereby we cover various areas from threat prevention to data protection so that we can give an end-to-end seamless experience to our customers. And besides working with the international brands, we also believe strongly to hunt business together with our fellow Singapore companies. So you can see here, actually quite a fair bit of brand here like Didoco, Squirrel, Insight Security, Genesis Network, Secure Edge. They are also our fellow SG Tech members. So ultimately, I think what we aspire to do is really to work with all the technology providers to give our customers different level of customization of security in order to provide end-to-end solutions to them. So when it comes to expansion, we don't really get it right at once. So I think besides Indonesia, I do have other markets which every one of them have different flavor of challenges and characteristics. But as for today's focus, I think I want to just share a little bit about what are some of the considerations that I have when we were choosing what are the various modes of expansion. So as a fairly small company, whereby we are privately funded as well, we're very cautious about how we decide to run our expansion plan. Of course, at some point in time, we do make not so good decisions, and over time, we also learn and grow from it. So first thing first is we must also be mindful that exhibitions or even mission trips, not discouraging you guys, but I know that we are all in for this upcoming mission trip. Just be mentally prepared that business missions and exhibitions don't yield immediate results. And even we get leads generated over the event, we can get very happy about it. But then in reality, when you really start following up, you realize that there will be some challenges ahead in order for us to really close the deal. So from perhaps around 2017 to 2020, we set our goals to actually sell our products in the ASEAN regions. To be frank, most of our focus and business has been in Singapore for the last 10 over years. We do also have some distribution business in the Middle East, but our approach is also slightly different. So where we decided to target is we look at, for example, the region like Malaysia, Thailand, and Indonesia are some of the key markets we want to really consider and go and outreach. Well, we feel that Indonesia, relative to our direct neighbors like Malaysia or even Thailand, perhaps the GDP per capita was a little bit smaller, but we do see a lot of potential in this market. And also considering the political stability for over the last 3 to 5 years, and a lot of news of new startups coming up out of Indonesia, a lot more talent that we can find in the market itself. I think that's where we actually set our eyes to focus on this market. But if you think about it from maybe perhaps the point we think about this market in 2017 till really now, how far have we really come? We actually went through quite a fair bit of ups and downs before we can say that at least we are having our track a little bit more stable than what we had before. So the other thing, when we also consider the market, we do have a growing workforce outside Singapore. So like I mentioned earlier in my slides, we do have workforce like sitting out of Russia, Indonesia, Vietnam, India as well. Then when we pick the markets that we want to choose, we ideally try to choose those markets whereby we do have local hires, whereby whether is it through contractual basis or it could be direct hiring and so on and so forth. We at least have people who are on the ground, understand the language that we can really use them to engage our eventual customers when we are there. So what we actually initially set out to do is we look at a few considerations: setting a local office, flying in and out, appointing distributors, and perhaps even employing a local staff or setting up like related to setting up a local office. But the slight difference is that between setting a local office where you really manage a set of headcounts, employing local contractors, you tend to have a bit more flexibility in terms of how you want to enter, and eventually, let's say if the market doesn't work out for you, you can actually pull out quite easily. So our ultimate goal is still to find and appoint distributors for ourselves so that we can really expand the market without expanding too much on our expenses for setting up the office. So of course, we tried things like flying in and out, thinking that it would be quite cost effective to test water. But we also soon realized that we really need to step up our investments so that our customers and partners actually felt we are really more committed in the business itself. So some of the trials and challenges that we actually encounter, I'm going to quote about 4 of them, and I'll start with the first one. So remember I mentioned about mission trips and meeting end user organizations. I think why I consider this as premature customer engagement, because if let's say as a company that aspire to go overseas, if you're not ready, customer actually can sense it, and you can fly in and out multiple times, try to have meetings, but somehow at some point in time after 6 months or so, you realize that customers still don't give you business. And we also soon find out there are a few other considerations, like customers actually prefer a local SI, and then sometimes we'll be scrambling to look for the right SI and things like that. So and other consideration is even the SI themselves, they're also quite cautious. Unless they're super hungry, if not, they don't really want to work with you if you are not very committed, or you perhaps don't have even people on the ground. So again, we have this dilemma of whether we should employ ahead of the business opportunity, or should we have a business opportunity first, then we go about employing people. So essentially, it still goes back to a bit of a financial decisions and strategy that what do you as a company want to do? Do you wish to invest and burn some cash first, and then after that ramp up as business grows as well? So the other thing is actually language and cultural barriers. So I know most of our Singapore companies, we are very confident about what we can do and how good our product is. However, sometimes when you enter another new market, you're not very familiar with the culture, the nuances. You can be very confident. They can also be very polite. So they probably will lead you on to make you feel like, hey, I'm interested in your product. But after months and even a year, you realize you're not closing, then something is not right. So I think we really need to appreciate that. Just like when some other companies will try to enter Singapore market itself, we also do prefer that they hire some of the local guys who are also familiar with our culture. When we have business talk, we build trust over time. So I think relationship is still best forged through people on the ground that we are trying to fly in and out. So from here, we had a couple of learning points and decided to be very focused is to really find good local partners to support us. And in a way, they can also help us to navigate the cultural nuances. Of course, having local staff does give the partner also more confidence on our commitment in the market. So the good thing about Indonesia for us is since we also have a certain number of people out there who are working for us more on the development team and support, who are also supporting some of our Singapore clients out of Indonesia, it becomes a very natural extension for us to extend the same level of support to the Indonesian customer. And the best thing is they also speak the same language. So next, while we are very focused on finding partners, right? I think the other challenge is how to find a good partner. There's no right and wrong answer, but I think essentially still goes back to how we actually strategize the business. And the next thing is probably how good are we in finding the right talent. So we did waste some time in a sense that we did try to hire one BD guy locally. And we try to have this approach where one of our directors will keep flying in and out, to have meetings with him, with potential end customers. And like I mentioned, in the early stage, we focus a lot on the end customers. But in the end, we didn't really get much outcome from that. I think the other possibility could also be at the time when we were trying to do this arrangement, the market could be a little bit ahead of time. That means we are a little bit ahead of time on the maturity of their cybersecurity needs in Indonesia as well. So I would say that we were a little bit in the wilderness for about 3 years before we slowly get connected and referred to a fairly good partner. Even prior to that, when scouting for partners, we will have people that seems interested for 2 to 3 months. And then after that, they seem to be not interested and we didn't know why. But what we really found out was that partners themselves, they also have a big business to run. They are not focused on selling a product. They owe you nothing. So in a way, if they try to pitch a business to a couple of accounts that they have and it doesn't seem to fly, then they'll drop their interest. So I think essentially, we still need to anchor ourselves on a good distributor. But talking about distributor, as a product company, we also noticed our next challenge was we are quite small. So when we are very small, you realize the large distributors, they are usually not interested in you because firstly, they find that they don't want to spend so much time and resources to build a brand for you. Hence, it's also very critical where you can find this right size partner. Other challenges like we will occasionally meet these rainmakers who claim they know so and so, they know big decision makers. They can do some cool deals for you. But again, I think over time, we will take it with a pinch of salt and we rather let our distributors handle it from then on. So of course, other things that when you are not ready and you try to rush into the market, you have situations like you may have very unclear market positioning or even segmentation, like who you want as your potential customers and who are the type of partners that you want to work with in order to reach out to these customers. So a little bit of trial and error in the beginning, but we didn't realize every trial and error actually cost us 3 months, 6 months, or sometimes even 1 year. I think these are very painful lessons, but again, we grew wiser. And then from there, when we go on to the next market, other than just Indonesia itself, we'll be more careful about how we find the right partner match. So essentially, I think the real lessons we learned is if we really want to land on a couple of partners, we spend a lot of focus time trying to have our first to second, one to two wins, especially in potential customers that are in the top industries that we want to focus so that we can replicate the success. And due to the nature of our business, we have to tell ourselves that we really have to be patient about the enterprise sales cycle. Sometimes, if we don't see the outcome in 3 to 6 months, it doesn't mean that there won't be outcome. Then again, it goes back to our own financial planning, how we want to manage our finances, how much can we burn, how many people can we have on the ground in order to make our dollars stretch the best for us while waiting for the market to respond to us. And assessing the right size partners is important. We did try in a very early ambition to hit our larger SIs. I mean, for security firms, there are different groups, not SIs, sorry, distributors. For security firms, there are probably different sizes of distributors, but back then I was looking at your typical brands like your Ingram, your Tech Data, ECS, and so on and so forth. Not saying that they are not good. I think they are good, but then we have to be realistic with ourselves. When we are small, actually, it's not easy for them to take us on. So these are some of the things that we also learned over time. So last but not least, I think as a company, we really need to have a very conscious decision about how much funding we want to set aside and what kind of support we want to give if we want to really target this market. Hence, I think coming back from the lessons over the recent 2 to 3 years, even during COVID time, we managed over a period of 5 years, of course, we managed to have 2 distributors, 30 system integrators and resellers. But in reality, over time, when I scrape through the list, get through my leads, my BD guys who really look at who's active and who's not active, in reality, we'll probably have 1 and 18, and of which maybe 5 very focused partners that are working much harder than the rest. So I mean, these are statistics and numbers that over time you may seem to be going after numbers, but at some point in time, you'll find that there are only a few that will be more aligned, and then there will also be certain strategy that we will go to different regions and comb other sets of partners along the way. So what are some of the important factors? I reiterate, I think right-sized partners, experienced, not too big, and synergy in products, and a little bit of good luck. Now, when I said not too big, like I mentioned earlier, like Ingram, Tech Data, they're really very big, so we're not suitable for them. Perhaps when we reach a point where we're almost fairly big, as well as some of the large international brands, they might be interested in us. Synergy in products could be, for our case, we work very well with data management companies. So typically we look for distributors and SIs that tend to cover products like your Dell, your NetApp, your other storages out there in the market, Hitachi, Pure, and so on. Next, we have to really assess the partner's commitment. So from 2 distributors to 1, because one of the first one didn't really work out, because we realized that the first distributor was actually fairly new to the business. So while he is learning how to be a distributor, you're also trying to enter the market. So such type of a combination are not very ideal because both of you are trying. So in my opinion, if we can best find someone that has really some experience, then that will really help. And on top of that, I think in the discussion of the business plan of really appointing the distributor did commit that he's willing to actually hire a product manager to work with us and to work closely with our sales director. And of course, on our side, we did commit because it doesn't come one way. That means the partner will suddenly say, yeah, I'll give you all this at no other commitment on your side. So on our part, we put in some money and also we identify some of the events that we want to do with them. And of course, as a principal, we actually put in money to support them on some of their marketing efforts. And apart from that, we also look into a creative way of, if let's say we are not hiring a direct salesperson or BD person on the ground in Indonesia itself, what can we best make out of this relationship? So we look at co-sponsoring even the product manager, meaning that the headcount is actually paid by both the partner and ourselves, such that the headcount is actually committed in bringing business for both our teams. And of course, with that co-sponsorship, we look at doing more regular cadence call with them. That's where the regular meetings, trainings, and even we provide certification and ensuring some of the engineers are properly trained so that they are equipped to do POC on our behalf and they are able to take the product into the next level for the other system integrators and resellers that they are engaging. So this is pretty much what I have in my sharing. So I think in short, expanding to a new market is actually more difficult than we envisioned, but that doesn't mean that we will not go for mission trips and exhibition. These days, I go for exhibition with the mindset that I would prefer to have my local partner there to support and do the follow-up, because if leads were generated from the exhibition event itself, they could really be the guys on the ground to follow up. But if I were to just go for exhibitions, I hope that I can find some end customer. I think most times I will end up being quite disappointed after 1 year and claim that, oh, what a waste of my time and money. But in reality, it could have been my execution plan has not been done quite well. So I think here's my sharing, and I'll hand back to Pav. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Sharon, for that very wonderful sharing. I think all of us can agree that there's a lot that we can take away and benefit from Sharon's sharing. And I think what's funny is I remember when I initially spoke to her and told her, Sharon, we would like you to come on board to share your experience. And I still remember the one thing she did tell me was, Pav, well, I'm going to be very authentic about it because expanding into any market, be it Indonesia or anywhere else, is not a bed of roses, right? And I think that struck me, right? Because it is so true, right? So I think many a times when we look at business missions expanding into new markets, it can come up with a lot of fluff and very rosy, and it's made to seem like it's so possible, instant success. And in that 20-minute call I had with Sharon, I kind of realized that it's so important to see both sides of the spectrum when we want to move into a new market. So thank you so much, Sharon, for that very wonderful sharing. And I hope everybody benefited from it. Just gonna go ahead and share my screen. Just bear with me. Okay. Next up, we have Mr. Irzan Fauzan. Mr. Irzan Fauzan is the Chief Executive Officer for ASEAN Innovation Business Platform, AIBP, or better known as Industry Platform. Irza is the co-founder and CEO of Industry Platform. The Singapore-based firm focuses on growth consulting for global civil nuclear power generation and Southeast Asia enterprise technology. Irza started his career with Lehman Brothers in 2007, advising financial institutions within Southeast Asia. His clients included central banks, sovereign wealth funds, banks, and asset management companies. He co-founded Industry Platform in 2012 to focus on assisting global solution providers to embark on efficient business development activities within the enterprise technology and energy industries in defined markets. Right, Mr. Irzan Fauzan will be sharing his presentation with us today about how do we move our business in Indonesia and what should we look out for. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Mr. Irzan Fauzan to take the stage.
Thank you very much, Buff. That was a little bit more of a long introduction that I did not expect, but thank you for taking the time to go through that. I'll quickly share my screen now. Let me know if you can see it. Yeah. Everybody can see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. When I found out the agenda of this session today, I thought it was fantastic that, the first speaker was actually someone who has what we call has been in the arena, right? I mean, the poem is the man in the arena, but in this case, it's a woman in the arena who spent the last 5 years trying to expand in international markets. And I think it's very important for us to actually listen to what Sharon said. And I think the one key thing I took away from her presentation was that effectively, you're from Singapore. Indonesia is what, an hour, 2-hour flight away from you. You are the most advanced nation in this part of the world, but nobody owes you anything, right? And why do I say that? Well, effectively, in the work that we do, just a quick introduction of my firm. We've been around since 2012, and what we've done is we've helped enterprise technology solution providers expand in markets in Southeast Asia. And when you talk about Southeast Asia, usually there are two markets which dominate. One is Singapore, because obviously everyone knows the night race, the F1 night race. Everyone has watched Crazy Rich Asians. So Henry Golding has done a lot to promote Singapore in the international stage. But outside of Singapore, the other market which actually dominates is Indonesia. So this year alone, we have run so many, we have worked with so many technology solution providers, not exclusively within cybersecurity, but a lot of them, interestingly enough, are from the cybersecurity segment. So on the screen now, you see is a couple of the, well, a group of cybersecurity companies we have worked with in the past year and a half. And almost all of them have said they are interested in Indonesia. And this ranges, right? So if you look at this list, there are companies like Dell Technologies, Fujitsu, Nutanix, massive companies who have a lot of resources. So most of the companies within the SG Tech arena are not actually competing with these guys. But if you look at the rest of the companies, some names which you might be familiar with or not, these are all small and medium companies coming largely out of Korea and some out of Singapore as well. And we've been doing this, like I mentioned, for the last 10, 11 years. And everything that Sharon said, I think I concur with almost 100%. When you start looking at internationalization, when you start looking at how to expand your business beyond the market where you grew up in, I think there needs to be a very, very big mindset shift. And the biggest reason for that is actually as simple as this, right? During her presentation, Sharon mentioned GDP per capita. And that macroeconomic factors, demographics are actually things you need to look at when expanding overseas. This is something I tell all our clients. This is something I tell all the companies we work with. If you look at this chart, I know it's a bit small, but if you look at the GDP per capita in Singapore, it's at roughly, I mean, this was 2022 numbers. Singapore is now above $80,000 per capita. And if you go further down in the middle, you would see Indonesia standing at about 4,600. It's around closer to 5,000 now. But that gives you the magnitude or the scale. And I would use this as a judgment of the ability or willingness to pay for solutions. Right. So you need to be very cognizant of the people you're speaking with. You need to be very cognizant of the scale at which they operate. You need to be very cognizant of how your solutions can potentially alleviate some of the problems that they face. So price sensitivity, I think, is a very, very big thing. But I think more important than that is, just to give you an idea about how we think differently. Sharon classified it quite broadly, right, under cultural nuances, cultural differences. So if you look at Singapore, one of the most efficient countries in the world, you can get from one end of the country to the other, I think, in about 40 minutes. You can walk 12 hours. This is the stats from Google Maps. So I'm not sure if some of you might be faster walkers or slower walkers, but end to end, it's roughly around 40 plus kilometers, just a marathon. But I don't think anybody has been stuck in a jam in Singapore for 2 or 3 hours in the past few years, right? But if you look in Jakarta, there's this very famous saying, right? Jakarta is effectively 3 hours away from Jakarta. And Sharon mentioned one way of doing business whereby you fly in and out of Indonesia. That is one of the most painful trips you have to make, because the airport to the city is roughly, on a good day, or if you missed peak hours, it's roughly, less than 1 hour, but on bad days, it can go up to 5 or 6 hours. I've had a lot of colleagues, myself included, stuck in jams for 5 to 6 hours. Why is that important? Well, the mindset changes, right? When you get stuck in a jam for 5 or 6 hours and you're used to it, it's a daily occurrence for you. The way you think about how rushed or efficient you need to be just changes. So that's something you need to keep in mind. And they're more forgiving when you're late for meetings as well, by the way. Another thing to look at would be connection speeds, even for internet connection speeds. If you look at incorporating a business in Indonesia as well, we have gone through that process. I'm sure Sharon has as well. In Singapore, it's super easy, a few clicks, and you can set up a company, I would say now even in less than 30, 45 minutes. Whereas in Indonesia, it's a lot more complex. There are a lot of steps. There are a lot of intermediaries you have to go through. And the average time to set up a company is anywhere between 1.5 months to 2+ months. So again, as I mentioned, there are a lot of differences when it comes to cultural nuances, and things just move at a different pace. Not necessarily a bad thing, because I think we are just too used to a certain way of doing business here in Singapore. So now looking at the cybersecurity market, most of you who are joining us for the business mission, you'll get a wide overview of what's happening in Indonesia. But this is just some introduction about the different types of attacks as reported by BSSN. BSSN you will actually get to meet while you are in Indonesia, but they are effectively, it's BSSN because it's Badan Cyber and Sandi Negara. For those of you who did not get the clue from my name, I'm actually half Indonesian, but BSSN is the Indonesian short form for what is the National Cyber and Crypto Agency. And over the last 1 to 2 years, in fact, during COVID as well, I think what we've seen is there was vast digitalization in markets in Southeast Asia. You look at the Philippines, you look at Indonesia, you look at Thailand to some extent, Vietnam. What COVID did for the region was digitalization happened at a much faster clip than it did in Singapore. Because if you think about it, in Singapore, when we were stuck in COVID, all of us still had access to our digibank, DBS, digibank, UOB, OCBC. It was almost business as usual for most of us because not many of us visited branches before that. But during COVID, in vast places like Indonesia, for example, a lot of the enterprises had to put on digital solutions really, really quickly in order to serve their customers. This included governments, banks, ministries, and even stuff like your water utility meters, your electric utility bills. So what we've seen over the last 1 to 2 years is that there's been a lot of uncertainty when it comes to the safety and security of these digital systems. So we've seen a lot of articles, OJK, they implemented the financial cybersecurity regulation just late last year, but as early as like a couple of weeks ago or 1 week ago, they reported that they were almost attacked in a ransomware attack as well. There was a very big case this year where Bank Syariah Indonesia actually got attacked as well, and even ministries. So there are a lot of attacks going on, and I think we all are fairly cognizant of that. And I think those that are not reported are even more, those beneath the surface are a little bit more as well. And these are certain things that you should be aware of going into the business mission. So if you look at SEOJK 29 on the right-hand side, I think late last year was the first time that they implemented cybersecurity regulation for financial institutions. This is implemented by OJK, and OJK works very closely with AFTEC, which is the FinTech Association of Indonesia as well, for all digital services, digital banking services, or what they call FinTech, right? So there are a lot of things going on. I'm showing you all of this because basically when you're going to enter a market, Sharon mentioned, don't expect to get it right the first time, but you can de-risk a lot of that first time uncertainty by doing some homework and understanding a lot of the organizations or regulations that are going on before actually attending the business mission. And this is where we try to come in. This is where we try to help our clients. So if you look at this chart, this is an annual survey we have done since 2017 actually. And we looked at the digital transformation maturity of enterprises. This is not individuals, these are enterprises. So we have roughly anywhere between 400 to 650 respondents per year. And we looked at the maturity and where they are. So as you can see, from 2018 to 2022, there's been large changes. A lot of digital transformation initiatives, projects have been implemented. But as you know, the more digital projects you implement, the more digital transformation you do, the more you switch from, let's say, analog to digital activities, the risk with cybersecurity increases correspondingly as well. And then when you look at the digital spending, this is something to be very, very cognizant of as well. In Indonesia, I'm half Indonesian, so I get to say we are very, very price sensitive, right? So the conversation usually almost revolves around price, whether you're having a conversation with your partners or with enterprises as well. So if we look at Indonesia's willingness to spend, especially this was the most recent survey we did, where there's a lot of uncertainty with regards to, there's political elections that are going on next year, and if you're looking at the macroeconomic environment, things are changing quite a bit globally as well as in Indonesia. So if you compare Indonesia to the rest of Southeast Asia, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Indonesians don't think they will be spending as much as the rest of the world. But having said that, don't forget, Indonesia is 1/3 of the ASEAN economy. So if they are willing to spend 10% less or 20% less, don't forget that the Indonesian economy is still 3 times the size of the Thai or the Singapore economy, right? So just keep that in mind. It's a very, very big market. You need to understand, or you need to decide very, very early on whether this is a market you want to invest in, whether you need to be there this early, or can you afford to wait a few years. So again, when you talk about digital transformation, what are the challenges people face? You can see from this chart in 2021, cybersecurity wasn't really mentioned as well. In 2022, and we have the most recent survey, which we will be publishing soon, cybersecurity concerns have gone have grown to be much higher priority for both C-level executives as well as IT teams. So they are trying to make sure that the foundations are set properly before they implement more digital projects in the future. And this is specific to cybersecurity. So this was an interesting question, actually, which was brought up by one of our advisory board members. The question that's generally asked is, what percentage of IT spending? Some of them frame it as what percentage of revenue should you actually be spending on cybersecurity solutions? And in every survey that we do, most people feel that a company should be allocating 15 to 20% plus for cybersecurity solutions. This is what people think they should be spending on cybersecurity. But in actual fact, this is actually what they are spending currently on cybersecurity solutions. So if you look in Indonesia, a large proportion, close to half of companies are actually spending less than 5% on cybersecurity solutions, whereas in Indonesia, more than half believe that they should be spending more than 20%. So this is the gap, I think, that can be filled. And naturally, because when you look at large, broad-based data, Indonesia has become such a market of interest for, for the Koreans, for the Taiwanese, for product principles or technology principles, actually, because they believe that there's huge open space. There's a lot of white space for people to come in and actually offer solutions. And that's not just people from Korea, just not just technology solution providers from Singapore. If you're looking from the West as well, a lot of startups, a lot of very, very well-funded startups. So your unicorns, your decacorns have set up office in Singapore and Indonesia over the last few years. And again, so that's macro data, aggregate data. I think that's important, but you can get that by surfing the net. That's fairly easy to do. Please do it. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. Please do it. But what I think you can look at also when you're joining this business mission is to do some homework around the people you're meeting to understand the background. So effectively, yes, you can do that by going into conferences. There are a lot of webinars that are going on, understanding what kind of customers you're going to go after. But this was recently from one of the programs that we ran, whereby we had 3 stakeholders. Dana is effectively a digital wallet in Indonesia, one of the largest. Jakarta Smart City, they govern a lot of the programs, digital programs within Jakarta itself. And FinTech Indonesia is actually working with OJK for governing financial fintech regulations in Indonesia. So what I suggest is go into some of these things. I'll put this up on the page for a while, but if you scan the QR codes here, what it will bring you to will be the direct content, which I just spoke about. So we ran a panel, the panel lasted something close to 1 hour where we discussed cybersecurity developments within Indonesia. We've written some reports, we've summarized some discussions we've had. It's in video format, it's in podcast format, it's in audio format, report format. So whatever format you choose to consume your content in, we have all of those things. So scan it. For those of you who are joining the mission with us, all this content is made available free for you. So what I strongly suggest is, look at it, look at the content, come up with a list of, let's say, whether it's end user enterprises or even partners, resellers, distributors. Have a clear definition of why you're going for the business mission. Don't just go on the business mission and hope that magic happens, because I can assure you magic is very, very unlikely to happen if you're not prepared, right? So access all this content. We will send over the presentation after this, and you can scan all this and read all these reports, watch all these videos before actually embarking onto the business mission. And this is also part of the survey that we did we do annually. So this is just to actually it echoes what Sharon has mentioned. When we ask enterprises being the end user of the technology or the end buyer of technology, what kind of channels or what kind of partners do they look at or do they speak to when they are looking for technology or digital solutions? It varies across Southeast Asia, but in Indonesia, exactly like Sharon said, like when you have system integrators, local system integrators, local SIs, local resellers or distributors, that's what they generally prefer. Most of the enterprises who are part of a larger conglomerate usually have an internal SI, so that also explains part of this. So what we've seen, we don't just do business missions. We actually have skin in the game because for some of the companies, we actually have equity stakes within some of the technology solution providers that we bring on business missions. What we always tell them is, try to understand the landscape, try to understand, hey, if I'm trying to sell to, say, part of the Astra Group, which is one of the largest groups in conglomerates in Indonesia, 80 plus years old, they do all the car manufacturing. When you're trying to sell to Astra, try to figure out, hey, who are their system integrators, who are their partners that they usually work with, and if you follow the chain of path, you will discover that there are some preferred system integrators or even internal system integrators that they work with. So yes, I agree with Sharon that you should be looking for strong partners, but sometimes it also makes sense to understand your end customers and their preferred channels of buying, right? Because that gives you really a leg up. We have to give you an example, a simple case study. One of our companies recently embarked on international business expansion in Indonesia just last year, and they were trying to sell into one of the large conglomerates, one of the subsidiaries of the large conglomerates. They found it really difficult, and the conversations were not going anywhere after 3 to 6 months. And what eventually happened, what breakthrough they eventually made was they just flew down to an event that was being done by that local conglomerate. He was giving some speech and he invited him to come down. So he came down. And then once he went to meet him on site, he actually met the partners that conglomerate was working with. And through that partner or through that system integrator, they now have distribution throughout the entire conglomerate, throughout all the different subsidiaries. So a lot of work needs to be done. Some people might say that that's luck, but I don't think it's luck because a lot of work had to be done to actually understand and a willingness to invest resources. Resources doesn't have just to be money. It can be both. It can be just time, right? Taking time to actually go down to Indonesia and meet with some of the partners. And again, this just iterates my point. During the upcoming mission, we will be working with 3 key stakeholders. These are mainly government bodies, but I think you can do business missions. You can look to find potential clients, and you should look to find potential clients. But if you are very early on in this process, if you're very early on, you don't know anything about Indonesia yet, I think understanding the landscape would be the first step. An information pack will be sent to all of you who are joining the business mission. The information pack is not meant to be fully exhaustive, but it should give you an idea around what are the kind of people you should be meeting, who are they, what are the job titles, and what are the kind of companies that are part of the business mission as well. Again, just logos here. You will get this deck and you will meet all these people on the mission. What I recommend, most of these companies, some might be familiar to you, like for example, Mattel. Everybody knows Mattel because of the recent Barbie movie. But a lot of these companies, maybe you might have read about it, you might have heard about them a little bit. Kopi Kenangan is the largest, was the first retail unicorn in Southeast Asia invested by Jay-Z, and they just opened a Singapore branch. So you might know about them. But what I suggest is do a little bit more homework, find out what they do, find out their revenue model, their business models, find out how much they're spending on IT solutions. Most of this information can be found online. Or if you want, again, speak to the people, speak to my team, obviously, who are part of this program. Get prepared, understand, so that when you meet them, it's not really a cold introduction because you're a little bit more prepared. Last slide, I'll just go through it very, very quickly because I think we are pressed on time. So what I usually find, Sharon talked about 4 main problems. We did not plan this, but I usually find that there are 4 main problems when people look to expand in Southeast Asia as well. And I look at this from a enterprise identification or prospect identification problem, right? So the hierarchies are very complex because a lot of the businesses are part of conglomerates. This is very easy to overcome because all you need to do is do a little bit of analysis. Most of them have almost public records of their org charts. And all you need to do is to understand their business so that you have some level of attunement with what they're looking for. Personal disparate and disjointed relationships. This is what happens a lot when we see people expanding into Indonesia. So, sometimes you speak to a partner, they say they know a lot of people, like Sharon mentioned. Sometimes you hire an individual or you hire somebody in Singapore to work for you, and the efforts that they make are non-continuous, are not integrated. So it's all over the place. There's no strategy in mind, and it's all disparate attempts to actually break into a market. That is something we highly recommend against. Make sure you have a longer term plan. The business mission should be part of a longer term plan across maybe 3 to 6 months to actually test whether there is business viability in that market as well. And why I say 3 to 6 months, because in that 3 to 6 months, the business mission should not be your only point of contact. It is ridiculous if you attend the business mission and then send emails and hope to close some deals after that. That's not how it works. That's really not how business is done in Indonesia. So what we encourage would be a multi-channel, multi-touch point approach. Speak to different partners, speak to different companies who have done the work before you, like Sharon's presentation, I think was very useful. And last but not least is luck, right? As I mentioned, sometimes luck is luck, and you cannot define what luck is, but serendipity, I think you can almost create, right? The ability to put yourself in a lucky position, I think that most of us can create, such that you work so hard that it feels like it's luck, right? And this is the sales funnel that we work with. We'll discuss it a little bit more, but I shan't go through it much here. So these are my contact details. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, send me an email. And if you have some questions around the Indonesian market, feel free to reach out. We AIBP as a team, we've helped quite a few companies, we've helped quite a few regional governments, whether it's the Koreans, the Taiwanese, and even the Europeans try to break into the Indonesian market. But like I mentioned, have a longer term view when it comes to international business expansion. Keep your mind open. And for Singaporeans, what I would always say is don't expect things to be as efficient as they are here in Singapore. If there's one thing you can take away from this, that's what I would tell you. Okay, with that, I think I'll give it back to Parth. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Thanks a lot, Irza, for your wonderful sharing. I think many of us can agree that we thoroughly benefited from Irza sharing. If you realize, it's very well balanced across the spectrum, where the opportunities are also laid out for you, but as well as the challenges, and not just opportunities and challenges, but the realities of moving into Indonesia. I think for some of you who are not aware, we are SG Tech, as part of the Cyber Connect project, we are taking up a delegation of 13 companies to Indonesia in the week of 23rd of October to 26th of October. So these 13 Singapore companies are looking to expand their businesses into Indonesia. Some of them already have some foothold in Indonesia, but they're looking for more opportunities. And AIPP is actually our in-market consultant who is working with us to help them, gain these opportunities that they need, to expand into Indonesia. And based on Irza's sharing, I think what was very interesting is, I on a very personal level have gone through when it comes to dealing with our Indonesian counterpart, is that the reality is that it takes a bit more time to make inroads. It takes a bit more time to come to an agreement on certain things, because they have different working styles, different cultures, different processes. In Singapore, if you realize that, how Irza mentioned, we are very process driven. And like how Sharon mentioned, right, we find that we are more accelerated when it comes to efficiency. But in Indonesia, there's a different way of working style, right, which needs to be appreciated. So thank you so much, Irza, for sharing that. I think the deck will be available to everybody else, after this session, and we can take the questions during the panel discussion. So allow me to just share my screen, and I'm just going to introduce two more of our speakers and our moderator who has not been introduced yet. I'm just going to introduce Mr. Roy Tove, Chief Executive Officer, Terra Systems Private Limited, co-opted EXCO member of Cybersecurity Chapter SG Tech. Mr. Roy Tove is a visionary founder and CEO of Terra International Group, a dynamic organization with a thriving presence in key cities across the Asia-Pacific region. Roy's remarkable journey has been marked by his invaluable contributions to government institutions and corporations, aiding them in their digital transformation endeavors while fortifying their operational security. Recognizing his outstanding dedication to supporting Singapore during the challenging times of COVID-19 pandemic, Roy was honored with the prestigious PBM, Public Service Medal, in 2023. We'd like to congratulate Roy on the award. Next up, we'd like to introduce Mr. Aras Bavli. Mr. Aras Bavli is the director of Mitra Gerbang Indonesia. He's a self-starter that helps growth by thinking out of the box, more than 10 years of experience in creating, assessing, and executing new business opportunities and new business partners in Indonesia, promoting cyber solutions, cyber education to the private and government entities in Indonesia. He moved to Jakarta with his wife and 2 children to establish a future in Indonesia in 2021. Right. Thank you, Mr. Aras, for joining us today as part of the panel discussion. Last but not least, I'd like to introduce our moderator for today's session, Mr. Ken So, founding CEO of Athena Dynamics and Group CIO for BH Global Corporation. Mr. Ken So is also our chairperson for the cybersecurity chapter in SG Tech. Mr. Kenso holds concurrent appointments as Group CIO of SGX main board-listed BH Global Corporation Limited since 3rd of March 2014 and has the founding CEO of the group subsidiary cybersecurity advisory company Athena Dynamics Private Limited. Ken has more than 30 years of working experience in the ICT industry. Prior to joining BH Global, Ken had held various senior positions in the public and private sectors at CXO and business leader levels with ICT master planning and P&L responsibilities. Since 2014, Ken spearheaded various digital transformation initiatives of the group, one of which resulted in the successful spin-off of the group IT department from a cost center to a profit center cybersecurity consulting subsidiary with more than 160 enterprise customers today. Thank you very much, Ken, for joining us today. I will pass on the time to Ken to kick off the session and to the speakers as well. Ken, over to you. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Pav. Thank you for the very generous introduction. And of course, thank you, SG Tech and CSA for this yet another internationalization initiative to help our local company to go beyond the shore of Singapore. And also thank you, Sharon and Iza, for the very insightful sharing. So now it's time for us to discuss more, the plenary. First and foremost, very warm welcome to this plenary session. I hope it will be a very interactive pursuit. And of course, thank you for having me. Well, today we are very excited to have all the very experienced industry veterans here. Let's hear more from them on the first-hand experience. So as the speaker shared their experience just now, I was getting more curious. So I went to ChatGPT and do a quick check on the sense of scale between Singapore and Indonesia. And well, I got this very simple statistic. The nominal GDP of Indonesia is 3 times ours, population is 48 times ours, and the land size is 2,600 times ours. So probably this gives us a very good starting point to imagine the scale of market and the place that we are pursuing. So I think before we start, I just have a simple intro and info about SG Tech. Right, SG Tech is a leading trade association in Singapore, about 41 years old for tech industry. And today it has about 1,100 companies as members. So the members has tech SME, there's a MNC startup as well. So the association has been very active in the advocates for transformation. It's a voice for industry, the bridge for policymakers, and also PPP initiative with the government. So the key thrust is to make Singapore and facilitate Singapore as a global digital hub. Now they call it digital node to signify a digital sense of it. and also overarching sustainability framework that we work in. And with that is underpinned by various talent outreach and nurturing, well manifested by, for example, last year we have a IHL outreach, which end up with almost 400 attendance, and initiative, a global event like Global Future Series. So please join us and plug into a network of networks into Singapore and the region. So as we know, networking is not about you know who, it's about who knows you, right? So join us, and also Pav is here. Always contact him to register in Cyber Connect. Well, so let's move on to the plenary, and I reckon that it will be interesting to hear from the other two speakers to start with. Maybe I see what Roy has to share, because he has been so experienced in the region. Maybe Roy, for a start, you could share with all of us your experience, especially the challenge that you face so far that can help us. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Roy here. So, well, I'm the founder of Terra System and Terra International Group. And like most of the entrepreneurs who start a business, we always look outside Singapore. And naturally, Malaysia, Indonesia would be the first countries we will embark on. And I started, went to go into Indonesia in 2018, I think. That's when I started. So like Sharon, it's really slow, right? The pace is slow. And of course, being a Singapore company, we also leverage on the MI, one of the grant that, offsets some of the costs in terms of hiring headcount, and as well as getting an office to rent as well. So it started, and I realized one thing over the years. Of course, COVID struck in between, right? So the activities were totally just stopped. And prior to that, I was frequently there, and I had a local country manager, and I hired some sales people. Things didn't go so well, didn't go so fast as expected. I think I on the same dilemma as Sharon was going on during that period, 2018, 2019, and 2020 was where most of the business have stopped virtually. So when it comes to, I think 2022, we restart the business again, we rehire, revamp everything, and things move very quickly. I think first thing first is always try to find the right person. Again, it's about context. To do a business in Indonesia is not that straightforward. It depends on what you're selling. So if you're selling cybersecurity products, where are you going to sell? Are you going to the BFSI or are you going to the government sector? So in either way, you will need to know people to bring you in. So they could be your sponsors, they could be your resellers, influencers as well to go in. And from there, you need to look at a few departments. The first department probably is the user group, the IT department, or from the procurement group as well. You will bring it in to find the users. So that is something that you need to do, and definitely the local to do it because it's all done through Bahasa. And I think, fortunately, I managed to get the right guy the second time, and our business actually grew very quickly. And we get to know more people through networks as well. And very importantly, is also about events. I think Lisa was talking about events. So luck doesn't come to you. You need to go out and reach out. So you need to go for events. You need to bring up visibility. You need to know more people. So if you don't do that, it's hard for you to find opportunity. It's hard for you to find people. So that's something I think applies. And there's a lot more things that we have done, but I think who you know is really important. And the cycle is long as well. Don't expect to close a deal within 3 to 6 months when you are first this year. You might need 12 months or even longer because the sales cycle can be long. And if you're selling something new to the market, for example, you're selling Zero Trust, you're selling CTI, you're selling CDR, you're selling something new to Indonesia, the cycle will take even longer because you need to talk to this party, and there will be a lot of collaborations back and forth in terms of information exchange, and it will take a long time for that. You have to be patient. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Roy. Yeah, very interesting. So I hear a single word, patient. So let's be very patient. Yeah, let's move on to Eros. Yeah, Eros, being someone that has been residing in Indonesia for quite some time, I reckon that to delve a little bit further into what the speakers has been talking about, could you share with us briefly the strategies, the difference in strategies between dealing with the public sector and the private sector in Indonesia? I reckon this will be very relevant and pertinent to the audience. Yeah. Please.
Yeah. So thanks, Ken and Tespar, for this opportunity. It's always difficult to speak after such a good speakers. I think I learned just 1 hour of learning till now, so it's a good start. And then you said patience. I think, yeah, the first word you learn when you move to Indonesia, it's sabar. Sabar means be patient. It's as in the pictures of the traffic jam, and when you wait for a meeting that never happens or supposed to happen, especially with government people, when you wait for an answer, when you, whatever it is, just be patient, sabar, and that's there you start your business journey in a better way. So there are many, I think, yes, your question is a very good question, Ken, because we have totally different approaches when we talk about government, like what Isa was showing in his logo at the back. So one logo, BOMN. What is BOMN? So when you understand, and going back for what people say, all of the speakers, when you know a little bit the market, you understand that Indonesia, the B2G, B2B, and B2C are totally different markets, segments, approaches, and I don't think that today we should talk too much about B2C. So we live with B2B and B2G. And also there, let's separate the B2G into two main segments. One is when you work with the BOMNs, which means the state-owned enterprises. That can be smaller ones till the bigger one, like Mandiri, BNI, BRI, the banks, Wika, construction company just got a huge amount of money lately. AirNav doing for the airports, Antabaspura or Johnny for the handling. You have just I'm thinking about companies that were talking, people were talking about them recently about the new train that was going to be operate very soon, the Whoosh, the fast train. So there are huge amount of project and studies to go to the B2G side. I'll put aside working with army, police, or actually all the ministries. It's a different game. And there it's actually very easy. Just talk technical and find a good partner that knows how the culture. If someone wants, when you come here to talk more, we can discuss more about this. B2B, that's the main focus, I think, here. And I think what we learned from the previous speakers is even in B2B, you need to, and Sharon said it in our previous meeting, and actually in the previous meeting, there's one thing that's very important is to be humble and to remember that being from Singapore or from abroad doesn't give you any extra points, but actually the opposite. You need to show them that you deserve to be their partner in a way, although your tech is the best. Why? Because they do not looking for tech. They're looking for exactly like what Troy just said. They're looking for connection, for the person behind, for the networking. If you find the right networking, you find the access. You can be more expensive. You can be less developed in terms of technology, but your network will decide where you go, because the way of taking decision in the conglomerates, like I said before, are a lot of time it's coming from the inside, not by the strategy. McKinsey will make them a $500,000 strategy plan, and then he will decide something totally else because, well, gut feeling, that's what we should do. So don't try to push your understanding, your logic there. Just try to understand the logic from the other side. While I'll say being humble. What is also being humble, and it's also taking what Roy and Sharon said, is us as foreigners, especially me, there's the term is bule. It's mean sometimes people think it's some try to laugh at you, but not. You are a foreigner. You're a foreigner in culture, a foreigner in language, a foreigner in business culture, I mean, in others. So when you come, it's not only finding a partner, is the foreigner. If you come, Easy Share is a Singaporean, very reputed company that had his past experience in Singapore. Okay, that's the stamp of quality. Now find the local stamp of quality, which means the person that can get you together. And then you go to the quality foreigner product with the right local person that know how to make this connection. So usually I don't think to go directly is smart. I think always, even if you meet a very high level people, it's very good. Just learn what they need and then go to find a partner to work with them, to give the service, to be available 24/7, etc. Well, something I wrote. I think one thing I will correct ears on one thing. And I'll go a bit further. That's 3 types or 4 types of companies in Indonesia. And it's very important to know when you try to come to Indonesia. You have a representative office, which is a company that actually cannot make any money here, but you can already have your office, your name, and remember, established since. So my company is established in 2021. Okay, even if you don't have anyone in Indonesia, virtual office, but you have a local entity. The second thing is, today it takes 2 weeks to get an established company. Okay, not anymore 1 month or 1 month and a half. I established around 8 companies the last year, so I'm speaking from experience. A PTPMDN, which is a limited company, it takes around 2 weeks. PMA, which is a foreign investor company, which means you, a foreigner, or you as a Singaporean company, can open a company here, will take as well around 2 weeks. It's some issues need to know, just as a start. In 24 October, there's a new decision in the parliament that may change the amount of money needed to invest in open to PMA. Currently, officially it's 10 billion, which means around $600,000, but you don't need to invest anything today. Till 24 October, you can open a company here, foreign investment company, which include visas for foreigners and working visas, etc., with no investment. So we can speak about it in different time, but it's very important to understand the different companies, the different time it takes, and how much it's important for the other people. And then I go what the different speakers before me said, to be here. Flying here, flying out, I'm not a supporter. It's good for the CEO, the VPs to come and to give a little bit of respect, but it doesn't really work. I wrote many points, but I want to be smarter, faster, so I'll just jump for some 2 last points. I think the maybe the last thing, because I have many things to say, but when we said about people, and you said about finding local people, remember that Ken just verify the different GDP and stuff. Don't forget how much the people here earn. When you talk to a local, you're looking for someone, he earns 5 million, 10 million, 15, 25 million rupiah, which means $1,600 a month. Usually the people you meet, they get $700 a month. Engineers from the best universities. So understanding the market is also understanding who is in front of you. And when you go there, it's you understand that the ocean is blue. Roy said it in a way, but it's the ocean is blue. It's good for us that this competition is there, because if we need to restart, educate them why they need cyber, you saw in his graph, they know they need to spend more than 20%, but they spend less than 5%. So we don't need to educate them. We need to be there, here for them, and to come in the right way. And if I may to finish, it's an ecosystem. The manpower is not in the level it needs. The companies, when you talk BMNs or big companies, they just want to cover their assets. Sorry for the words, but they don't care about the results. They want not to be guilty of that it happened in their shift. So try to find a way. Be humble. Get a network. Even if you think you are the best, it doesn't really matter. It just need to be, don't sell shit. Again, sorry for the language. Sell real products, because you have one chance. You sell shit, don't come back. Everybody will know it. So be loyal to the product and to your clients, and you can really succeed here.
Thank you, Eros. Yeah. So I think to recollect the points, patient, be humble, have right network, look from their perspective, look for reps and partners, take care of government policy, market pricing, to sell things with substances because it affects your reputation. Thank you very much. And now, probably I would like to ask Sharon a very curious question. Basically, you have mentioned about basically a difference between marketing and sales. So to share with you, there are also a lot of principals that come to Singapore. They do a bit of exhibition. Later, they will ask us where's the pipe and when's the sales coming, right? So usually I will share that sales is not marketing and marketing is not sales. That's different. Yeah. So I think alongside that, the curiosity comes from the fact that there are a lot of countries, right? So what actually prompted you to look at Indonesia and to expand your business to Indonesia?
Okay, I think like there are certain growth indicators that's very clear. I think for most of us, even when we pick ASEAN markets, I also try looking at Philippines. I look at Thailand. Sometimes it's also a little bit of convenience because I do have some Malaysians working with me. Although I must say that Malaysians don't speak Bahasa Indonesia, it's a different type of Bahasa. But I feel that, sometimes out of a little bit of convenience, we can give a shot. At least between our Malaysian colleagues and perhaps our Indonesian colleagues, there's a smaller gap as relative to perhaps like if I were to try Thailand, it's like totally different kind of language. I think these are just small little things that we try to look into. But other things that gave me a lot more motivation was, like I mentioned earlier, we were also expanding our tech team. So when we expand our tech team, we decided to look at Indonesia because of the growing population and a very young population, ideally with skilled labor, as we see along the years. I think we've started building our Indonesian team since perhaps 2013, almost 10 years ago. So, I mean, if you have people working on the ground, although they are not sales, marketing people that's driving our product there, but at least even over the years as bosses, we learned a bit about the culture because the first 2 years was quite a lot of friction because like as typical Singapore companies, we're very demanding. We expect things to be turned around. And then, they start communicating to you in a way that you're not familiar. But of course, over years, when we get to know them, things get a lot better. So by the time I feel we are ready, then we decided that this is a market to enter. Yeah, so that's my consideration.
Thanks, Sharon. I think when you mentioned about this, meaning that probably you get used to or understand at least the culture and the ethos of the mode of working there. So I think the next
or even
question
sometimes when I have certain doubts, right, I'll just ping my Indonesian colleague. Because sometimes business being business, technical people, no doubt they are not specialized in business. There will be little things that you can get out of them. So ultimately, we will still need to work with more professional sales people because when you're dealing with partners, it's just like your salespeople and your engineers do think differently, right? But then again, for cultural nuances and things like that, we can pick up a little bit from our colleagues, but I won't say it's 100%. At least from a comfort level, we feel that it's not like totally going to a new place where everything is starting from afresh. So I guess those are the little comfort that give us the advantage. But having said that, every time you meet new partners, you build this relationship, like what Isa has mentioned, there's a lot of new things that we are navigating. And in fact, although I'm a speaker here, I must also say that I'm also learning so much from every one of you. So all your experiences actually adds a lot. And in fact, I'm just taking notes while you guys are actually talking. So that's a very wonderful session. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, likewise. But Sharon, just further to your notes on understanding the culture, right, and the nuances. So I think a very relevant question next that everybody would like to know is how do you gauge the buying signal?
To be honest, most of the time, I'm not involved in the buying process with my customers and my partners because quite a fair bit of it is really trust with them. So We built a sales pipeline with them. That means my engineers on the ground, they'll be sizing up. They will be assisting them in all those POCs, working alongside with their own engineers as well. But beyond that,
Sure.
once it comes to the business dealing, actually a lot of things we just have to trust the partner to close, or even if they don't close, they will just share with us what's happening on the ground. I think one interesting deal that I shared the last time was I thought I managed to get one particular tender because we were told that, yeah, we should be winning. And then after 2 to 3 weeks, I said, how come we're not getting PO? And then they said, oh no, turned out that the tender went to another company. I said, hey, what's happening? I thought we won by merits, right? Like from function and all that, clients should be quite happy. POC turned out well. The part that was a little bit disappointing when I heard this, I was quite shocked. Like, it seems that between the SI, they seems to rotate the number of chance to win. So I said, oh, this is totally unbelievable, you know. In my culture, it's like, this is not totally unbelievable. We should win by merits. What do you mean, like, round robin way of winning? I would say that it's really round robin, but it was just one of this encounter that kind of shocked me. But again, having said that, I think we just tell the partner, don't worry, we still have a few more pipelines to work on. So let's just hope we win the others along the way. Yeah.
Sure. Thanks for sharing this very special and interesting. So I would also like to check with Iza. Yeah, Iza, thanks for all the very nice sharing. Your display of that traffic jam actually is very close to my heart as well. I always share with people jokingly that when I go to countries like this, I turn out to be quite productive. You know why? Because I managed to clear all my email in the cab. So the car is practically not moving, and it's very conducive for me to work in the car. So is one question for you is, with all this being said, how do you articulate the commitment and also the critical success factors of winning deals in Indonesia then? Yeah, Iza?
Yeah. Yes, thanks for the question, Ken. I think it's interesting, you know, because whenever you speak to a Singaporean, I trust you're Singaporean, they will say that when they get stuck in jams, they will clear their emails, they can call their family. But then if you talk to Indonesians, they watch Korean drama in their in the jams because they say that's the only time they can watch it. Because when you go home, you have kids, you have this. But yeah, I think, yeah, that's when you talk about critical success factors, you know, one thing we look at whenever we do these business missions, not just for Singaporean companies, but for companies, let's say from North Asia or even the Europe or US, is what kind of commitment when it comes to, first of all, time, and second of all, resources. You know, time being, most people have a very short-term view of international business expansion, whereby they want quick wins, or they want to, you know, do one trip and then figure out whether this is a market they can go in or not. They don't do any prior research. They come there completely unprepared, and they have what Sharon says, a certain sense of entitlement, right? You know, both Sharon and Aris said it as well. That's a big problem. That's a big problem when you have this quite negative view on the market, or you see the market as just an end buyer for whatever you want to sell. So I would say humility, you know, I would echo what Aris and Sharon just mentioned, that you need to just understand them. You need to understand what problems they have instead of product pushing. You ask for buying signals, right? What are buying signals? I hate to use qualitative factors because I usually look at quantitative factors. You know, you look at how your pipeline moves, your sales cycle, those kind of quantitative cycles. But in Indonesia, I think something qualitative you can look at is if they actually introduce you to a partner that they like, or if they introduce you to their bosses. That is when, you know, I think it's a good sign for you. But if they introduce you to more junior people, then, well, that's not really a good sign, right? So I think those are the factors, but in order for that to happen, the level of commitment, I would strongly suggest, for those of you going for this business mission, don't look at it as a one-off. I mean, here you have Aris. Aris is actually based out of Indonesia. He helps people set up companies, right? Aris in Indonesia, he understands the landscape. Don't take this, take the time to actually connect with the different people here, Sharon, Aris, yourself, Ken, Roy, people who have done it before. And when you go to Indonesia, make sure when you connect with people, you know, make an effort to have a cadence every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, get in touch with them again, ask them how they are. make it personal, you know, don't just, hey, have you seen my product pitch? Like, hey, you spoke about your son that day, how's he doing? You know, stuff like that. And I think that's something we Singaporeans are really bad with. It's always business, always business, always business. That's not how it works in Indonesia. So level of commitment, you know, it doesn't have mostly time and money, yes, but it's also the amount of thought you put into, you know, keep making and keeping a connection. Because the business might not happen immediately, but I assure you, you know, the Indonesian market is what, a 1.3 trillion market. Business will happen eventually for you.
Sure. Thanks, Isa. Yeah, so not so API driven. Too much of it doesn't work, right? So got to uphold it with a fair bit of EQ, I reckon. Yeah, so I think in the interest of time, we are on time for this plenary. We reserve some time for Q&A and interactivity. Yeah, please feel free. I'll open this to the floor. Is there any particular questions, any itching curiosities that you want to clear? All the experts are here. Yeah. Any questions, please feel free. So, Pav, do we are they able to ask the question verbally or just key in? Yeah.
Yes, they are able to unmute themselves and ask a question, or they can put it in the chat. Yeah, I'm monitoring the chat as well.
Okay, please feel free to raise hand. The function is there. Oh, no hands raised. Yes, I see that. Paul, yes.
Yeah, that's
Paul,
me.
yeah, please feel free. Yeah. Hi,
Yeah,
good to see you here.
thanks.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was being quiet in the background, hearing from the expert speakers. Yeah. Yeah. Also say hi to Sharon, Roy, Iras. Yeah. Isa. First time video meet. Yeah. So Iras. Yeah, I met him in Jakarta.
Oh.
During the Intersect Summit. It was last month. No. Yeah. August. Yeah. August. Yeah. So yeah, it's not that I'm very unfamiliar with Indonesia. When I started working, yeah, I really engaged with my company, subsidiaries, distributors, in-country colleagues. Yeah. So, but one thing is that yeah, it involved those a bit of occasional flying in and out, face to face that time. Yeah. But of course, during the, I mean, now we come to pandemic, the onset pandemic. Yeah, things I went to remote. Yeah, remote workforce. But yeah, what wasn't engaging much in the Indonesian market was more Singapore. So after the exhibitions are coming back, the events. So since last year, in a way, the post-COVID. So I would say there was a buy-in from the senior leadership. I'm not a business owner myself. I still work for a company, or racing group. Yeah, we are a Swiss company. Singapore office established almost 13 years ago. My CEO is Kim Hock, which everyone is very familiar with, has been an SG Tech member, probably I don't know, ever since Singapore office was established. Yeah. So for me, I'm just again someone down the value chain. I mean, report to my CEO. Take out the opportunity to explore regional markets like Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam. Yeah. So but Intersect was something that was in our interest. Yeah, since last year. So took a chance to visit. So what has an eye opener is that yes, I met familiar faces in the cybersecurity world, in the fraternity, the vendors, yeah, distributor. And the first thing I asked in my mind was, do you have a local company? Do you have a PT registered? Yeah. So I'm not sure if I managed to gather like more than 30% or 50% of the exhibitors has a PT presence, PT registered, right? I'm not too good at pronouncing Indonesians short term. Yeah, except this BSNN. So PT. So I heard a lot about Singapore company having they need to have a local presence, be a rep office, not making transactional. Even though you have rep office, you also need to have a local guy. Yeah. So then again, it's down to the buy-in from the senior leadership. So for me, from working level, like I mean, from here the audience we have Roy, the boss, Sharon, boss, Karen, also the boss. When me as working level are saying, hey, we need resources like get a local company set up. We need a local guy. So I mean, what comes in the senior leadership that hey, based on the ground level inputs, I mean general inputs, senior leadership itself are willing to invest, within 3 months, 6 months to have a local company set up and a local guy, engaging local contacts, partners.
So Frank, sorry, yeah, Paul. So thanks for sharing. So you're saying that the management need to be committed as well. Is that the point?
Yeah.
Okay,
right,
so
yeah.
Sure.
I mean, from
Thanks
level,
for
feedback from the
sure.
ground.
Thank you so much for the sharing. Yeah, I saw, if you don't mind, I saw Frank is raising his hand. Yeah, Frank, yeah, any questions or, yeah, most welcome.
Yeah, I just got a quick question. How imperative is it we talk about setting up a business over there, and we also, I see that you're using distributors as well to do that business. But so the question that I've got is how imperative is to actually have an office over there or a business over there rather than having people on the ground and using your distributors to your advantage?
So your question is comparing office to people, is that right?
Yeah. Using your distributors as obviously your promotion vehicle, having your own people on the ground there. I'm assuming, yeah. And then from that perspective, how important is actually having a physical business in Indonesia rather than you utilizing resources and your distributors to do to get your business off the ground there?
Sure, understand. I reckon, may I suggest, Roy, you could help this because I sense that you're very experienced in this area.
Thanks, Frank. Is that? I'll see you soon. Well, I think from my perspective, I am more on the distribution side and the system integration side. So what my company does in Indonesia is we are a distributor, and most of the time we need to get involved with the end user for the few reasons. Number one, we need to do a product demo, and we need to do some customization. We need to understand what they need in the requirements, and we set up the tests as well as all the write-ups for them. So the technical part, we get involved. We work with our local reseller, which are usually the sponsors or resellers in this market. Now, as I said earlier, you need to know which is your market. Where are you going to? So if you're going to the BNSI, financial sectors, right? Then you need to work with some of the partners who are the established resellers. So in this circumstance, I have, in fact, last 2 weeks ago, we have a deal that's been going for months, right? It was with this local bank in Indonesia. And for this particular opportunity, we have 3 resellers. So we did the direct methodology. So the first one who approached us get the best discount, and the second, the third, and so on. They have a different tier of discount. And guess what? 2 weeks ago, we logged in, we got the order, and from the bank. But the one that got the deal to us is actually the one that gave the less discount. So they obviously have a higher purchase price, but they closed the deal. So I think it's something that which Sharon has encountered, that hey, you are told that deal, but then you lost the deal, right? You went to another partner. So that could happen. What happened behind the scene is really quite unknown. There are basically 2 parts of it. The first is they will establish the technology first. So if you're selling a zero trust network, you're selling a firewall, you're selling a CDR, CTI, whatever solution you're selling, they will establish the brand. This is the brand that we want to buy. And when they establish the brand, the next step is they will look for the company to close the deal. So that has nothing to do with technical anymore. It's all about networking. It's about pricing. So this is where you need to get probably more than one partners to go into that particular sector, right? So if you talk about ministries, it will be super messy because there are many, I would say hundreds of power resellers you need to talk to, and you don't know who is saying the truth. This guy tell you today, say, hey, I got the order, and tomorrow the other guy say, I got the order. So you hear from both sides of stories, and you really don't know who actually is the one that closed the deal, because there's so much politics and economics behind the deal itself. And usually we don't get involved with all this. We will let the resellers, settle all their differences or whatever politics, economics they need to settle. We focus basically on the main pricing, the technology, and the rollout objectives. That's what we are focusing on. So unlike Australia, Singapore, when you are doing deals in developing countries, that is usually the method. In fact, I have another deal that was in Malaysia. It's a very big deal that is close to 50 mil USD. And it's the same methodology. We have to work with multiple parties, and they all meet somewhere when the deal is closed. So the PM has signed off, so we move on. And for Indonesia, there is another particular sector in the public sector that don't call for tender, right? I can't say which departments are they, but there are 6 major resellers, and the deals do go through them. And when the budget was issued, they basically will chop the budget and they will go for different products depending on each of the step board that is allocated the budget. So again, how do you know this? Is your network. You really need to work with people on the ground who have all this access with all these connections. Otherwise, it's really, really hard. Really, really hard. I hope I answered the question.
Thank you, Roy. That's truly insightful. Yeah, a bit mysterious also. Okay. Anyway, Frank, I hope Roy answered the question.
Yeah, sorry, Ken. There's a
yes.
question in the chat as well.
Oh, yes.
I know that I think there's a hand raised as well, but I think there's a question in the chat by Roberto Tan. What are the top 3 cybersecurity threats in Indonesia?
Yeah, anyone able to share?
Don't worry, I can share on this. So I think first thing first, I attended the Indosec. I met Paul as well. You still remember me, yeah? Indonesia. Actually, in that Indosec, we had another event which I attended. It's called CSS, and there was a speaker. The speaker was is a Professor Sinta. She's a lady, and she's the person who wrote the PDPA law for Indonesia, and which was wrote into law last year. However, you must know one thing: the law is there, and there's no enforcement. So when you are going to a market to sell cybersecurity, the first thing you need to look at the first 2 things you need to look at is, firstly, is there a law? And if there's a law, the second thing you need to look at is there enforcement? If you have a law and there's no enforcement, what does it mean to you? It means that it doesn't matter. If you can break the law, there's no enforcement. So what? If I leak the personal data out, there's no penalty for me. It is only a best practice. So right now, Indonesia is going to version 2 for the personal data, and Professor Sinta was in that panel as well. She was sharing with the Indonesians, with as well, including myself, saying that she's working on the round 2, which is the enforcement, which the government will enforce. They will create an agency, just like our PDPC, right? Our PDPC is basically commissioned as a step board to enforce PDPA. So there's something coming up in Indonesia, and it's a good thing for cybersecurity, because if you don't have this, it's very hard for you to enforce the need to have cybersecurity. If you look at the landscape in Indonesia now, if you really want to sell cybersecurity across the board, right? We don't talk about MNCs, right? We are talking sector-wise. There are only 2 sectors you're looking at: the PFSI and the government public sector. There's no other sectors, right? The other sectors really depend on how much they want to buy. And we do have non-bank, non-government. In fact, we closed several deals where we did brand protection, we do threat intelligence, we did with non-financial sectors. But the focus on our business is still very much into public sector and financial sector. So with this enforcement coming in to Indonesia, written into law, so with the agency coming in, I think there will be more business for Indonesian. As you can see earlier in the study, right, they're not going to spend a lot of money, but once the enforcement is there, you can see that there are more activities coming in, because now I have to answer the three problems they have. First thing first, I think they really buy on budgets, even for banks, right? They buy things at the lowest cost possible. Cost is very sensitive there. So obviously the basic network protection they have, but what they don't have is the so-called intrusion detection system. Something's missing in the network. Another thing that they need to look at is the zero trust, where if you talk about cloud and hybrid on-prem connection, that's something also missing. And of course, they don't have BAPT done frequently, and there's a lot of leak. And if you look at the bank, as we said earlier, the Sharia Bank, and especially other banks as well, including Mandiri Bank, they are all in the same cluster, and they actually are interrelated. And there's a lot of breaches in Indonesia today. The problem here is that, so what if I get ransomware, I just shut them down, I reboot, I get my backup up, my operation go back again, I block all your IPs from your C2 servers, and that's it, I'm done. Clear all the beacons, and I'm done. So that's the usual DFIR work when you get arrested. And then they move on, and then back to square one again, and people forget about it. So we need the law to come in to enforce, right, with the compliance. So that is coming soon, and I do think that it is still early as of now. I mean, it's good time for you all to go into Indonesia, but it's a little bit early at this point of time. Until we have the compliance agency in place, then things will start to change. Then we'll see more mechanics in the business of cybersecurity. So I hope I answered some of the questions with the technology. I will say that BAPT testings, these are really lacking in Indonesia. It's because they go for the bare minimum. Even for firewall, they buy the bare minimum. They don't even buy web filtering and all these licenses. They just buy the basic network firewall, and that's it. So I hope that answered the question.
Sure, thanks, Roy. I think coming back to Roberto's question, he's asking for the top 3 threats. Are we able to crystallize this portion to share with him from the experience? What are the top 3 threats that you can see in Indonesia?
I think first thing first, the BEC is definitely one of the top 3. BEC is the business email, right? Compromise. Sure. That is one of the biggest threat that they have received. Phishing email is another one. And there's a lot of social engineering being done recently. Not just in Indonesia, particularly even in Singapore, we have seen it very often. In fact, last month, we were called in to do a DFIR for a very large company. They have a few thousand staff, and they got ransomware. We have to go in and clear for them. And the credential was actually leaked out. So this is where I think is a threat. And if you look at the threat, credential being leaked out is a big issue with the users. So I think these are the 3 big threats that facing Indonesia.
Yeah, Ken, if I may add something, I agree, but the first thing is personal here in Indonesia. It doesn't matter all the technologies in the world. Roy said it, phishing and other social engineering. The people here, and especially comparing to Singapore, are not, the big majority of people are not educated in the same way. They cannot understand the risk. They cannot understand why I should not push a link. The second thing is the amount is also the second is cyber by application, the threat by the application. Everybody here uses a phone. Even if you don't have money, you use a phone and you use application. And before we talked about digital wallets, nobody uses here cash anymore. Everybody uses wallet. Can be GoTo or GoPay, it can be Dana, it can be Ovo, it can be whatever. There's 10 of them. All the people, the banks doing wire from the bank, even if you have only $100 in the bank, you use your phone, the application of the bank, and you have 3 different applications of the bank. And each one connected to another one. So, okay, let's talk application security, the connectivity. And at the end, I think the most critical now is people. People are not in the level of understanding the risk and You talk about big companies, they need to do much higher efforts to minimize it. So KYCs are important, but again, people are not playing by the rules of Singapore or by the rules of Australia or the rules we know. It's different way of game, so need to adapt.
Thank you, Aris. Yeah, thank you, Roy. Earlier, I think we saw Dennis raise his hand, but I can't see the hand now. I don't know. Dennis, you have any question? Danny, right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, hi. Danny
Hi.
here. So yeah, I'm from Cloud Science. So actually for the past year, we have been investing in Indonesia as well. So just like to ask from the team that what's the benefit of setting up an entity over there? We engage someone to hire somebody over there, but thinking does it worthwhile to even set up a full-fledged entity in Indonesia itself?
Any taker?
Yeah, I think his question also echo with me, resonate. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
great power comes great responsibility. Big organization has big budget. I must say that Wishing is a big organization, which is somewhere between the global
I think I
presence
can
and
answer this.
SME.
I think myself and Sharon can answer this. I think first thing first, if you are a Singapore SME, you can look at the MRA grant where you get 50% of this budget where the government will actually offset. So that's something you can look at to lower your costs. If you ask me if you want to go into Indonesia, the answer is definitely yes. You need a local, definitely. And whether you want to get a local through a distribution, through a SI, or your local staff, right? It really depends on how much is your budget. Now, your budget, if your budget is low, then it's probably hard for you to hire one person over there. And besides, if you talk about the salary, well, we do hire people. Indonesia, the salary is quite low compared to Singapore. And if you talk about salary is between 1,000 to 2,000 Sing dollar, get a normal entry level person. But if you really want to get someone that is a deal closer, right? You have to pay close to Singapore rate. That is anything 5K. So again, what is our run rate? Because if you want to go into Indonesia, you want to be an investor, you always look at the run rate. So you have to say, okay, if I run it 12 months, is it reasonable to close any deal? And if I can close the deal, is it enough to pay for my investment? The answer is no. Okay, because if you're going to pay for a deal breaker, for example, you pay 5K, 1 year 60K, you get 50K, 50% MRA, 30K off, you have to pay 30K, right? Notwithstanding, you still have to pay for other marketing funds and all these, right? Meals, transport, and all the marketing activities. Your investment easily will reach out to probably close to even 70, 80K per year. And how much can you sell to get that kind of profits, right? You have to probably sell, say 10%, have to sell at 800K. That is something that you can't close within a very short time. And you might need to stretch it out even 2 years and 3 years. So again, you cannot go in with the hope and you'll be sure lucky, right? Most of the time, I don't think we can be so lucky, right? Unless you really meet the right person at the right time. Let's plan to be safe. The runway, you have to look at close to 2 years, right? And you must prepare to pay that salary for 2 years in order to achieve certain success. And I say that because, and one person probably is not enough, right? It really depends because my team in Indonesia, we have 10 old people, right? So you don't need to grow to that size, but you probably need one or two guys, one technical, one sales guy, to run this on a daily basis. And because of the jam, the meeting cannot be done so frequently. That's also a problem. So another way is to try to use social media, the Zoom or Teams to do it, but it's not effective, unfortunately. Nonetheless, I think that's about the marketing fund, the sales fund you have to invest in, the runway you have to plan. If you really want to be safe, I'll say give it a 2 years runway. And that's the amount you have to prepare to lose. Okay, and I can tell you that I have burned a lot of money as well in Indonesia. Really a lot. It's all 60G, right? So I also have hired people in Indonesia who actually went on to steal things from my company. I have that, right? I also have customers who owe me money for 6 digits as well for a long time. So you must be prepared that there are certain business, if you want to go into overseas, you must be prepared to lose that money. If you are not prepared to lose that money, to take the risk, then it's very hard for you to have high gain. So it's like high risk, high gain, low risk, low gain.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Roy. Wow, sounds like a survival program, boy. Okay, so yeah,
risk
I think we are
management.
coming to the time.
Yeah.
We are coming to the time limit, and yeah, and I think on behalf of everyone, thanks to the plenary, the panelists, yeah, for all the very good sharing. So with that, probably I'll hand this over to Pav. Yeah, Pav.
Thank you so much, Ken, and a big thank you to the speakers and to Ken for this amazing panel discussion. I hope all of you managed to take back some key outcomes today. When we were putting this panel together, it was with a mindset that we wanted to have a very unique flavor to it. So you realize that we have all of these individuals on the panel have their footmark their footprint in Indonesia in some way or the other, right? And you will realize that many of them actually have different journeys in Indonesia and how they kind of sing the same song. And you realize that if you crystallize everything that you're saying, it's about taking the right steps, understanding what you ought to know to go in, coming from a space of humility, EQ, right? And knowing which are the right partners that you should deal with, right? So I thank you so much once again. I think that we can give them a round of applause, a virtual round of applause, if you'd like to, for the wonderful session. I'm just going to move on to the next slide. I would like to trouble all of you to take out your phone to scan this QR code. As you know, SG Tech has developed a cyber catalog in partnership with CSA. Basically, the cyber catalog, if you're not onboarded yet, is absolutely free of cost. It's for Singapore cybersecurity companies to list themselves onto this catalog for global exposure, for global business opportunities. So what is SG Tech doing right now? We are actively marketing this cyber catalog. There are about 110 companies listed on this cyber catalog as of today, and we are actively marketing this cyber catalog to our foreign counterparts through high commissions, trade commissions, high embassies, Enterprise Singapore, our partners, right, in the government agencies as well. And we are working with them very closely to actively market this. So what we are seeing is that through the catalog, foreign counterparts are starting to engage with our Singapore cybersecurity companies. So if you are not onboarded yet, I strongly urge you to scan this QR code. You can take a picture if you like to. The link is there as well. It's absolutely free, of course. Onboard yourself today, and we would like to see you on our catalog. Last but not least, if you're not a member of SG Tech yet, okay, we would like to invite you to be part of SG Tech so that we can continue to hear you as part of the community, connect you with the right people, build, you can use this platform to build awareness of your brand and build your network, business connections, and enjoying SG Tech's global network, of local, regional, international frameworks, and join us for many of our flagship events as well that are coming up. So you can take a picture of this, and if you're interested to be a member of SG Tech, you can drop us an email at membership@sgtech.org.sg. Once again, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us for today's session. Before we end, I think there were a few more people that had joined us. Is it okay if we take a group photo? And if you could turn on your camera.
Just to add, as well as a counselor of SG Tech, I think it's very heartening to see our tech companies coming together and going abroad together. I think apart from the fact that we are also trying on our own to go there and land on opportunities, I also hope that between ourselves, we create more collaboration. Like what I shared earlier, how my company tried to do something. We actually work with a lot of Singapore companies to actually create a lot of opportunities for one another. So be it in Singapore or even outside Singapore, actually we do quite a lot of referrals to one another. And I really hope that the SG Tech community can be a very tight-knitted community to really help bond together and then grow out Singapore as well. Yeah. So are we ready for the picture? Thank you.
Yes, thanks a lot, Sharon. So if you can just turn on your cameras. I'm just going to give it another 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, if not, I'm just going to, everybody, big smiles and just bear with me for a few seconds. Smile and look at the camera. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon, and thank you for joining us. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Take care. Stay safe.
Thanks, bro.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks all the ESCO members. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.